welcome to another episode of Still Kicking with Billy Howard. I just wanted to show you my skull kitties. That's what it was called. I got this at Gay Pride last year. Gay Pride is this weekend in Louisville, where we are podcasting from, or whatever you call this kind of a thing. And I just love it. It's so funny, kittens and the skull. The skull looks pretty mean, you know? And yet the kittens are so sweet. Well, welcome to another episode of Still Kicking with Billy Howard, where we seek truth and wisdom under a barrage of hatred and lies from the U.S. media. It is Tuesday, November 13th, 2017, and I am your host, Billy Howard. And for now, I'm still kicking. Today, I want to talk about my party, the Democratic Party, and ask, can they wipe the sneer from their faces and stop being so condescending? I have my doubts. Have they written off the working class as deplorable losers? Will they stop race baiting by calling Trump supporters the white working class? I mean, why the white working class? I mean, isn't the whole working class involved in this? Weren't there black people who voted for Trump? I believe there were. You know, it's not true by calling them the white working class, and it's racist. The Democrats are racist, and they do it a lot. And NPR uses that phrase, white working class, a lot, and it is racist. And they are racist when they use it. Bernie Sanders gave a speech in Chicago this week and asked, what side are you on? You know, that was a famous song during the early labor movement in this country. And I assume he meant, which side are you on, workers or owners? But he didn't really say. He did say that the Democrats need to welcome workers. Now, I didn't hear the whole speech. I only heard reporting on it. And welcoming workers would sure be a lot better than sneering at them and being condescending. Democrats don't sneer at all workers. They do it just by race. They sneer at the white working class. And this phrase, white working class, falls frequently from the lips of Democrats and reporters at NPR, and I assume on other broadcast outlets. Now, Democrats, who have proven themselves to be such sore losers, and their media, which have also proven themselves to be such sore losers and poor journalists, they play the race card all the time. All the working class is being cheated by our wealthy elites, not just whites. They, the elites, are following their classical education, where it was drilled into them to divide and conquer. You get that from reading Latin. Divide the working class by race, and that's what they're doing. You know, class is something we don't talk about in America. Politicians don't talk about it, and our pseudo-journalists don't talk about it. But now they're kind of forced to, because the working class has got their guy in office. And so what are they doing? They're trying to divide the working class by race. You can talk about race in this country all you want. You can use the N-word or whatever words you want, but you cannot talk about class. And we divide throughout history. Howard Zinn has done great work on showing how we divide the people by race so they won't talk about class and how the rich are screwing them. Pardon my language. So we're dividing now the working class. So you can continually divide and divide, just like a physicist slicing atoms. So divide the working class. That seems to be their strategy now. The elite press smears the white working class and their president as anti-Muslim and Islamophobic. Now, I suppose they love Islam and embrace its subordination of women to men and its murderous zeal against gays like me. It's not homophobia as we know it so well here. Muslim countries persecute, torture, and murder their gays. It's a little bit more homophobic. The Saudis murder gays. The Iranians murder gays. The Iraqis murder gays. The Afghans murder gays. The Indonesians, which is always held up as the most enlightened Muslims, and they do it in public. There it is, right there. 2 Indonesian men caned. There he is. Oops, there he is. There it is. I can't do this. He's a teenage boy. Just a teenage boy. And when they torture people, we did torture research at McGill University in Canada, the CIA did. Paid them $30 million to do this research. And they found out that, when you beat somebody or give them electric shocks, they start to become immune to it. But if you want them to no longer be immune, you humiliate them. You humiliate them sexually. And suddenly the electric shocks hurt again and the fists against the face hurt again. And that's why there was so much sexual humiliation at Abu Ghraib, because the torture was so ongoing. And of course, what they did was just humiliate them as they tortured them. So they must have learned something from our CIA. But yes, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Egypt, Morocco, they all treat gays abysmally, and women too. In Chechnya now, we think we don't like Putin, but we're not too upset about his gay bashing. But Putin's done a lot of gay bashing in Chechnya, which is a Muslim province, I guess now, of Russia. They are torturing, they're kidnapping, torturing, and murdering gays. And Putin doesn't care. Yet, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about everything but that. Now, so am I Islamic phobic for pointing this out? Gays and women are not safe or free in any Muslim nation. There is none. And it has everything to do with Islam. And let me just say this as a Christian. The Christians aren't much better. They're not. We have a horrible history of torturing and murdering gays. And we did murder. Back in the 90s, the last time I heard a figure, 300 gays were murdered every year in this country. We call them gay bashings. And a lot of times, they weren't even gay. They were just perceived as gay, and they were murdered. You might remember the shepherd boy in Laramie, Wyoming, who was tied to a fence and tortured and left to die, which he did. And this is very common in Christian countries too, but Christians seem to be making progress. A lot of Christians haven't, like the Baptists. They still hate gays. They're still full of hatred and vitriol. But that will change. There are Baptists who are not that way, and we have them here in Louisville. So religion can be a problem with this, and as a Christian, I understand. And as a gay Christian, I understand. And I must admit that I used to vilify Christians in my younger days. And I realize you can't blame God for what people who proclaim to believe in him do. And I suppose you can't blame God if you call him Allah or if you don't call him anything like we do. So anyway, if you point this out, that Islam is really anti-gay and anti-women, you will be labeled an Islamophobe, and you will be called that by a Christian phobe. Yes, a Christian-phobic technology worshiper, some science worshiper. These racist Democrats will sneer and ridicule you for clinging to your First Amendment freedom of religion and for clinging to your Second Amendment freedom to bear arms. They are so condescending. And Obama was the most condescending until Hillary came along and called us all deplorable. So, racist Democrats call the white working class deplorable. And of course, I am not in the white working class. I am a capitalist. I live on dividends and interest. And I freely admit that. But I have respect for the working class because you know what? Not one of the corporations I have shares in could make a penny without workers. Not even Facebook and Microsoft or Google, which I own shares in, could make a penny without the workers. They would all be in squalor if people weren't coming and cleaning their offices and mowing the grass around their offices or building Apple's new big circular thing, which looks scary if you ask me. But anyway, Democrats really have taken the sides of the owners like me. They have not only taken the side of the owners, they are kicking workers in the face. They are defacing the workers who built this country and made this country great. They attempt to divide and conquer workers by race baiting now and using this term white working class. But the black working class and the Hispanic working class and the Asian working class are getting just as screwed by the rich as everybody else. And maybe the blacks are used to getting screwed and the whites aren't. And that's why the whites are being singled out, because they're being the loudest about it. But don't let them divide you by class if you are a worker. Surely you've heard our elites say that American workers, and you can just read white working class when they say that, are lazy and only Mexicans work hard. I hear that all the time, and I hear it mostly from Republicans. Now, can you imagine if that was said about the black working class, that they're lazy and only Mexicans will work hard? But few American workers will work, say, construction for minimum wage, but Mexicans will. It's 5 times what they made in Mexico. So Americans are willing to work hard. They're just not willing to do it for nothing. But that's global labor markets. You gotta love them. That's why rich people love them, because they can take your job away and give it to somebody else for a fraction of the cost. Now, if Democrats care about workers, about non-college educated workers in particular, that's what they should say, not white working class. You have to ask, what fruit has the Democratic Party delivered? Income inequality widened greatly under President Barack Obama. It soared under Bill Clinton. In fact, it was the Democrats under Clinton that destroyed the working class of all races. The bottom line is, don't buy into Democratic racism. It's ugly and it's a lie. And if you want to know why they're doing this, and why they have no love for the working class, there was a very interesting thing in the Wall Street Journal. They always have this notable quotable thing in the opinion page. It's always pretty small. And this is from California's, from an article called California's Descent to Socialism. It was written by Joel Kotkin in the Orange County Register. Now, Orange County, in the Orange County Register, very conservative Republican places just south of LA County. This is the excerpt. The oligarchs of the Bay Area have a problem. They must square their progressive worldview with their enormous wealth. They certainly are not socialist in the traditional sense. They see their riches not as a result of class advantages, but rather as reflective of their meritocratic superiority. As former TechCrunch reporter Gregory Ferenstein has observed, they embrace massive inequality as both a given and a logical outcome of the new economy. Their gambit is to expand the welfare state to keep the hoi polloi, and if you're not familiar with hoi polloi, that's a Latin term that just means the masses. Literally, I don't know what it means, but it means the masses. Their gambit is to expand the welfare state to keep the hoi polloi in line. Many, including Mark Zuckerberg, now favor an income stipend that could prevent mass homelessness and malnutrition. And I might add what they really fear, unrest, which they have now, really. Unlike its failed predecessor, this new greener socialism seeks not to weaken, but rather to preserve the emerging class structure. And there it is, class structure. And that is what they believe in. They don't see how they were privileged, even by being born with really great brains. And I don't think they're using them very well, because the business model of all of these big technology companies is to take your data for free and then use it to manipulate you. It's that simple. They take your data for free. In fact, you pay to give them your data, and then they use that data to manipulate you, whether it's politically or whether it's commercially. And who knows how else they want to do these things. So, there you have it. Democrats talk about their love and respect for workers out of one side of their mouths, but there's no fruit. I judge the tree by the fruit it bears, and the Democrats are barren when it comes to helping labor. They are fruitful when it comes to destroying the middle class and the American working class by creating global labor markets. In other words, we have to compete with people who have no freedom, who have no labor rights, who can be locked up just for speaking the truth. So Bill Clinton invented global labor markets. He created them. Our Congress created them. I don't want to just blame Bill Clinton. Our elites did this. Our Ivy League elites and elites otherwise. But let's not belabor the point. Phobic, anti-Christian, sneering technology worshippers of the Democratic and Republican parties. I'm just pointing out their hyper-hypocrisy, their mendacity, and their Trump is their perfect mirror. They are everything they think Trump is. Naomi Klein is a writer and a journalist from Canada, and she was on NPR's On Point last night. And she said Democrats should stop attacking Trump. She said it proves his point about hateful elites and their hostility to workers. She didn't say to workers, she just said it proves the point about hateful elites who are out to get Trump. But Trump is the representative of the workers who put him in office. Naomi Klein, if you haven't heard of her, she's written a lot of books, one called No Logo, one called The Shock Doctrine, which I have right here, which is an incredible book, which was largely ignored by the liberal press. And it's all about U.S. torture and the history of U.S. torture. You know, Naomi Klein was worried about, you know, when there's a traumatic event that there might be detention centers. Well, after 9/11, which was a traumatic event, we proceeded to start torturing on a global industrial scale. So yeah, bad things do happen after traumatic events. And but nobody cares about torture. That's not bad. But trying to help the working class, that's evil. I just don't get it. I really think, well, let me just move on. So she says we should stop attacking Trump, which I don't do, but that the press should stop and the Democrats should stop. And it proves their point that they're out to get Trump and they're full of hate. And it does. And they are. But in other words, what she's saying is get a platform. Get a message. Are we a nation with values, or are we just laborers for a global high-tech economy? I mean, are we citizens of this country with civil rights, or are we just laborers in a global labor market, forever making less and less money? Forget freedom. Forget human rights. You're just a worker. Now, you may have heard of the Public Theater in New York City. It's in Central Park. It's a beautiful place. I've seen a lot of plays there. They do mostly Shakespeare. And right now they're doing Julius Caesar. And you may have heard that the man playing Julius Caesar looks and talks and acts exactly like President Trump. And so Julius Caesar, and this is, by the way, public theater, so that means public money is being spent. There's never any charge to go see a play there. And I've seen a few plays there, and some concerts too. And the public theater has been turned into Trump assassination porn. And that's what it is. They are fantasizing about assassinating Trump. And can you imagine that outrage if Obama was portrayed as Julius Caesar and then assassinated on stage in New York in Central Park? Can you imagine the outrage and the indignity of our elites? But yet that's what they're doing. They're doing the same thing. Our theater elites would have been arrested for fostering threats against the president had they depicted Obama that way. In short, Democrats have lost their soul. They have lost their integrity, and they have certainly lost their purpose. They don't know what they represent, and that's why Hillary Clinton had absolutely zero platform. That is why Bill Clinton had no platform. That is why Barack Obama talked in great soaring language about nothing. What the Democrats are all about now is greed and power for them. There's a storm blowing in, I think, right this minute, and it's blowing through the window. And my pretty good producer is trying to pick up everything, but don't worry about it, Pete. I'll pick it up later. I'm holding the script so it won't blow away. But it is very nice and cooling. You know, you can see I have the windows open and it's 90-something degrees outside, but it's about 85 in here and it feels pretty good. Anyway, the Democratic Party has lost its soul, it's lost their integrity, they've lost their purpose. And for the Democratic Party, it's really just about greed and power. That's all it is. They should get off their high horse and visit their constituents. And they should stop sneering and start listening. We know the Democratic Party cheated and rigged the primary in this election. And it's safe to assume they did the same in the general election. But the press didn't really report that. But it wasn't the Russians or Trump that meddled. It was the Democrats. Crooked Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the Democratic Party, had to step down during the convention. Yet not even Republicans want an investigation of Democratic meddling in our election. But they've always hated, but of course, Republicans have always hated the workers and Mr. Trump. And I have always said for the last 20 years that there's no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. And one of the things they share most in common is their hatred of Trump and his voters. And that's it, I think. That is it. Thank you for watching another episode of Still Kicking with Billy Howard. We'll be back next week. That is, if I'm still kicking. Be free, live up, and remember, I love everyone, even the elitist, racist Democrats, but I won't lie for them. See you next week.